Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, the President and CEO of the Chamber. Each week we'll highlight what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, and develop our workforce. We'll also check in with our community partners to share inspiring stories and important information from across our community. This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit truliant.org for more information.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Impact the Borough's podcast. I'm Jen Hensel, Assistant Director at Launch Greensboro, where we accelerate growth for entrepreneurs starting businesses in the Greensboro Triad area by providing education, mentoring, and access to capital. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by a few of my friends and colleagues who happen to have interned with Launch Greensboro over the past 5 years. What we're going to be talking about today is how the internship component is such a major benefit in the Launch Lab Growth Program, which is our traditional accelerator that runs in the spring and the fall. And that program, which aligns to spring and fall semesters, is very much tied to our ability to bring in highly qualified paid interns from a variety of colleges and universities in the area who are able to put their learning in the classroom into use in real business situations. So I'm super excited to have with me today Sam Selleck, Corey Wooten, and Luke Pecor. And I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves to our listening audience. Tell us what school you went to when you graduated, and if you remember what year you worked for Launch Greensboro. Sam, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, hi. My name is Sam Selleck. I went to High Point University and graduated in 2019 and was a intern the spring of 2019.
Perfect. Corey.
Hello, I'm Corey Wooten. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University in December of 2019 with a bachelor's in electronics technology, and I was a launch intern from May until December of 2019, so summer and fall.
That's right, Corey. You were a summer fellow with the Campus Greensboro program as well as a Launch Lab Growth intern, which is the same as Luke. Luke, introduce yourself. You're our summer fellow this year.
Everyone, I'm Luke Pecor. I'm currently a student at UNC Greensboro. I'm set to complete my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship this summer, and I'll be entering the Master's of Business Administration program at UNCG in the fall. I'm a 3-time intern for Launch Greensboro, I guess now. Started back in spring of 2020, again in 2021 of spring, and then extend that internship now as a summer fellow this summer.
That's right. Well, I just want to thank you each for being here. I'm really excited for people to get to know you and to understand a little bit more about the Launch program, how they might encourage the young people in their life to also apply for an internship, because I think it is such a win-win-win. And when I say that triple win, it's a win for the students, it's a win for the entrepreneurs, and it's a win for the community in terms of that support of moving entrepreneurs, startups forward faster with the kind of work that our interns are able to do. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about, maybe Sam, you can start this answer with us. How did you find the Launch internship, and what made you decide that that's what you wanted to spend a semester working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe I was looking for a spring internship because I was taking a few less credits than typical students do. So wanting to fill my time, and knew I wanted to do a internship that would benefit me, especially in, once I graduated college. So I was just looking, I believe I found it on Indeed. And I was super interested by the listing because it was working with entrepreneurs. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My great grandfather started a clothing store that was passed down to, my grandfather and my uncle. My dad owns a construction business. My mom owns a private practice. So I am very familiar with entrepreneurs. And I also just wanted to kind of learn more because who knows, I may, want to have my own business down in the road. So it was a perfect fit when looking at it.
And Corey, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the favorite companies that you had the opportunity to work for? Was there a particular entrepreneur or project that just was like a standout for you in your experience?
I would say I got really close with Mona from Mona Art. I did a project for her that was mostly research based, but I'm the type of person that I just always love learning, and I love learning about new things. So the fact that her business was so unique, which, to speak to her business, she does biophilic design, which is the intersection of interior design with plant-based life forms. So she does like these living art walls, but she also does like actual interior design with different types of plants and organisms. And her work is beautiful if you haven't seen it. But that was more of a research-based project, but I was able to just learn so much about biophilic design. And personally, like my partner and I have a garden, and we like have plants all over our house and all over our backyard. So just being able to kind of merge like what I actually enjoyed in life with a project that was going on during my time at Launch Greensboro was really beneficial. And I really enjoyed it. And Mona and I, just on a personal level, really connected as well. So I had a lot of fun with that project. But one that really challenged me, I would say, was with Calvin from Freeman Capital. This one was, I did research on micro influencers through just about every social media channel you could think of: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. But the main objective of the project was basically to find these micro influencers that were focused in like fintech and like had financial backgrounds. And I sort of built a database of these micro influencers for Freeman Capital and Calvin. And I had a really good time doing it, but the most challenging part was that it was specific to micro influencers. So, you can type hashtag finance or hashtag fintech and Instagram and get influencers, but it was more specific to influencers that had like less than 5,000 but more than 2,000 followers. So for that type of project, I liked the challenge of it just because of how specific the deliverables were.
I remember that summer you working on that project, and I remember thinking, so for those who have not been in CoLab, my office sits right next to our conference room, which is pretty much all glass. And so I could watch you and Calvin sitting in this room brainstorming, and Calvin also has a computer science background. And so watching the two of you be like, would this work? Could this work? Maybe this is how we should approach this project. And Calvin knew exactly what he wanted and how he wanted it done, which I think as interns makes things really nice because it, as you said, the deliverable becomes really clear and succinct. But that's one of my favorite memories is watching you two put your heads together and being like, okay, I think we have a plan. And then Corey to go execute like to perfection on that plan and provide him with what he needed. And to know in the background that has legitimately supported his growth in the last 2 years. So I love that project. That's a good one. Luke, what about you?
I think in general, given that I kind of want to be focusing on marketing going forward in my like professional career, I've always liked the projects that had that kind of marketing focus. So doing, market research, competitor research, competitor analysis, things like that. Specifically, working with Karen Pollard from Brainpower Advisors here in the summer cohort has been really cool because I got to take basically her project that was broken down to 3 pieces from a very macro level to a very micro level, doing competitor research, analysis, helping her form a positioning statement, and then taking that positioning statement and turning it into a sales script that she can use when she's talking to leads and prospective clients and things like that. So that was really cool to be able to use everything I've learned throughout my undergrad career and just kind of focus it on, okay, here's everything. I'm going to take it from this very high level down to this very actionable level.
Yeah, that's great. And I kind of want to dig in a little bit to something you just mentioned, Luke, which was about the kind of applying the knowledge component of what you do. One of the things that I always say to the community is that we hire highly qualified interns. We are hiring students who are incredible in their field, incredible at their craft, who can truly offer something as a form of expertise, right? It's not necessarily professional services. You guys might not have your own agency yet, but a lot of you will be highly successful marketing agency owners and computer scientists in your own right and entrepreneurs in your own right. And so when I'm doing interview process, I look for people who already are well spoken about business and entrepreneurship or their specific field and pull them in so that they can be of service in this really well-rounded, cohesive team to our entrepreneurs. But the thing that I think is really cool when I'm talking to you guys in your interviews is we pay you to sit alongside our entrepreneurs in the accelerator program every single Monday night to sit in and listen to local experts talk about a variety of topics. So we talk about marketing and branding, we talk about a pitch, we talk about the why behind the business, and we also talk about operations, right? We talk about HR and management and sales and all kinds of things that we want the entrepreneurs to know. But I have also seen so many light bulbs go off within our interns' minds as they're sitting there listening to this great education session. So I would love to know kind of what your experience was like sitting in on those education sessions, for 17 weeks at a time. You know that I always coach you on listening to the experts with the companies in mind and thinking about the information you're receiving through the lens of how it might apply and support our entrepreneurs. But I'm well aware that in the back of your mind, you're also like capturing little pieces for yourself, for your industry, for your own future capacity. So Sam, tell us a little bit about what you gained from that component of your internship.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you first told us that we would be doing these at my time, whenever I was an intern, the Monday classes, it's like, okay, this may be like, just a recap of what I've already learned. But that was not the case. It was above and beyond what I've already learned in my class. And yeah, it was just such an incredible experience getting to like not only learn this information, but also apply it to these companies that we were working with. You mentioned the coming up with the why, and that is super, super important for any entrepreneur to come up with, what is their business and who are they going to be marketing to, and all of that jazz. So it was awesome getting to see and work with companies coming up with their why and, applying that to all of the projects that we were working on. I remember specifically the social media class that we had, learning so much about that. Not only did that help me with projects in the actual internship, but helped me in the social media marketing class that I was taking at the same time as my internship. So it was super beneficial, not only for just, having those connections with the entrepreneurs and helping them with their projects, but helped me kind of, learn and keep tidbits to myself, for future classes, my career, and hopefully more so in the future.
Thank you. And Corey, what about you? Because I know you come to us with such an engineering, computer sciences, like tech trade kind of a brain. And then you have to, you sit in and you listen to all of this business entrepreneurship jargon. I'm wondering what that experience was like, because you are and were at the time an entrepreneur yourself. You have your own businesses. But I always think it's interesting to watch some people who aren't necessarily like traditional business students sit in and absorb some of that information.
Right. So yeah, that's actually what I love most about this internship is because a business can be anything. So, businesses, there are tech businesses, there are clothing businesses, etc. So just seeing that from like an entrepreneurial standpoint and having come from like a STEM background and having started my own business, my business personally, I was kind of working on having that transition between like head on just like business salesmanship as well as introducing like the more technical components. And being in this program like taught me so much more than I even already knew about like the technicalities of starting a business and being in a startup. Like some of these classes I learned, Tableau. I learned how to mostly build and manage a database because I did quite a few databases while I was there. So I essentially became like and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jen, but I was more along the lines of like the technical intern for the entrepreneurs because our projects were based on what our majors were. So even though it was an entrepreneurial internship where it's like a lot of business minded things, I'm still learning that like business side of it and learning the concepts that actually go into starting a business and being in that like fast-paced startup environment. But at the same time, I'm doing these technical projects. I'm building databases. I'm building websites. I'm like, that's pretty much what my project focuses were on the more technical side of like what these entrepreneurs needed. And I learned so much from that and really enjoyed it. So.
And Luke, what about you? So you've sat in now on 2 whole cycles of expert education. What are your thoughts?
Well, before I went to UNCG, I actually had the opportunity to start and fail at startup. So that was a great experience because it really made me hyper focused on, okay, this is why I'm going to school. This is why I'm attending this internship. So sitting in on those classes, you're paying me to sit in on a class. Okay, let me take some notes, right? So just soaking up everything I could. But also, when you're sitting in a class or at school, you're in business school and they're hitting you with all these concepts and stuff at a very high level. It's great to be able to have that knowledge, but being able to sit in with these experts in their field, they're actually talking about current issues, and they're providing you with ideas and tools and resources that are up to date that you don't necessarily get sitting in the classroom. So that's really awesome, to have them kind of bring it down to you a little bit and say, okay, this is what's going on right now. This is what you need to be doing and looking at right now. So that was really great. And I also had a question for Corey because I've had the benefit of coming from, that business background. I wonder like what are some of the challenges or, just that communication, I guess, rather, having not known these concepts going into the internship.
So for me, it was sort of more unique because I did minor in entrepreneurship. So I kind of already knew like the basics, I guess you could say. But the most challenging thing for me was that I'm just a major nerd in general, but I can have a tendency if I'm trying to explain something to explain it more technically. So one of the biggest things that this internship taught me was just understanding and learning how to reword and just kind of basically educate people that may or may not understand like the technical terms. And when you're talking about like software development or QA testing or whatever, like not everybody knows what that means, but that's one thing that I've definitely learned from this internship was learning how to be able to translate that in ways that anyone would be able to understand and it would make sense to them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question, Luke, of like, because we hire students that come from an accounting background, entrepreneurship and business, of course, computer sciences, marketing. I mean, I've hired someone who's an English major, right? Because they bring something to the table. They have something inside of them that has a passion for business or entrepreneurship or has a skill set that I know our entrepreneurs need. So, what I think I would like to really have our listeners understand is where, specifically Corey and Sam, where you are in your careers right now and how you feel the internship at launch may have set you up for success in those two places. So, Corey, tell us where you are right now, what you're doing, what you're working on.
So I am currently working for a company called GPX Intelligence, which is previously called Logistomatics. We were acquired last summer in May of 2020. I originally was hired on as a customer success agent. I then went on to working a little bit on the fulfillment team, and I was the returns manager. But during my time as a returns manager, I also reconstructed and redeveloped our entire RMA process, which RMA stands for Return Merchandise Authorization. So anything involving returns and exchanges, like I pretty much automated the process for the customer service team to save so much time and just allowing people to be able to either return things for refunds or exchange them, what have you. I did that from about April to October-ish of last year. Went back more onto focusing on the customer success side. And then in February of this year, I was made the lead electronic records custodian. So basically what that means is my company, we make GPS tracking devices. So I am the special person that gets to communicate and take subpoenas and arrest warrants from officers, detectives, attorneys, etc., and basically collect the documentation and provide like the account details and those types of things to them for like court trials and things like that. So I've been doing that since February. And when I first started, our legal claims database was a Google spreadsheet, just a basic Google sheet. And it is currently a like fully blown Airtable database that is also mostly automated. I'm a big automation person. Jen knows this. Like I call myself technologically lazy, but I mean it in the best way possible. Like I'm always looking for like ways to integrate and automate things to make mine and everyone's lives easier. So I pretty much automated that process to the point where I got from doing like one legal claim where it would take like an hour and a half to now it takes maybe like 10 to 15 minutes. And then the rest of the process from like the request where they submit the subpoena to where I submit the documentation is pretty streamlined. And yeah, I'm currently balancing that with like a little bit of customer success hand in hand. And I'm also enrolled in the Google project management certification with Coursera. So looking to kind of shift into project management or program management in the near possibly future. So that's currently where I am.
That's phenomenal. Like I just thinking about what the company has gained from having you on their team is really incredible and also doesn't surprise me at all. Sam, what
Yeah,
about
seriously.
you?
Yeah, now I'm afraid to go. After that, that's incredible. Corey, you've done a lot. You should be really
You work
proud
at
of
Ibotta. You work at Ibotta. You win. You win.
Yes, I do. But yeah, so I work at a tech company called Ibotta. It's a Denver-based company, started up in 2012. And essentially it is a free app and browser extension that gives cash back to everyone and anyone on everyday purchases. So from your grocery shopping to your restaurants, your food delivery, your clothing, everything you could think of, you can get cash back from Ibotta. So yeah, I, after finishing my internship, started working at Ibotta 3 weeks later. So have been working there since. So it's been about 2 years and have shifted a bit in different positions that I've worked in. So originally I was hired to work as a technical marketing associate. So I was working on building out and automating all of our communications. So our emails, push notifications, text messages, in-app messages, all of those were being built out and launched by me and my team. So Corey, just like you, trying to automate and come up with the easiest way of making things personalized in our communications that we could use in the future. That was also my cup of tea. I like your term of technologically lazy. I was for sure that in that position. But as of recently, or as of December, I switched to more strategic role. So currently I am strategizing ways we can best promote our app and browser extension to our savers. And from that, executing those, goals and plans and strategies through our communications. So this is kind of a step above what I was doing before. So I'm planning out and writing all of our emails and our push notifications, and then working with the previous team that I was on, to get those built out and sent to our savers. So yeah, I have been loving it there and have learned, a lot from my internship at Launch that has kind of transpired over to, my job, both the first one and my current role. I was also a technical geek in college. I studied computer science as well as business. So was working on a lot of technical projects for Launch. Specifically, I was working with a photographer, Melissa Reed Healy, on helping her with her website, getting in the nitty gritty back end details of her website, and working in HTML and CSS. And that helped me a lot in my first role at Ibotta, because I was, working in HTML of our emails and was super, super familiar and really comfortable kind of working through all of that code. And yeah, just feeling really good about, my HTML knowledge. So that's just one of the many lessons and things that I've learned from that internship that I'm now, using in my day-to-day job. So yeah.
And just real quick, I wanted to touch on something she said.
Yeah.
She had mentioned the skills that you learned from the internship. Like, just for the listeners and the students that are hearing this, the transferable skills that you get from interning at Launch Greensboro are unmatched. Like, even though you're an entrepreneur support intern, you're essentially doing the role of a project manager in many aspects, but you're also you're getting interpersonal skills, you're getting like day-to-day communication one-on-one with startups, and you're working in a fast-paced and agile type environment, but you're also watching these environments begin. Like, you're watching their journey from the ground up, which is truly amazing. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would 100% agree with both of you, because I think it's kind of cool that you both come from more technical backgrounds, but you've combined that business entrepreneurship side in there. Whereas, I have been kind of tossed into technical projects, as, it was challenging, but, that's the way the world is going, is technology and data and stuff like that. So I just think it's really interesting that everyone's kind of been forced to work on something maybe that they haven't been super strong on. But yeah, I mean, that just goes to show the value of the internship.
100%. Yeah, there was a specific project that I worked on that I wasn't really nailing it right in the head. And it was actually with Mona, who Corey worked with. She was also in the cohort of entrepreneurs during my time as an intern. And she sat me down and we had this conversation, and I was just like, okay, I want to do this. I believe that I can, put my our heads together, and we can give you something that's really awesome. And she instilled so much trust in me, which is crazy to think. I was still in college. I didn't have that much, experience prior, but she was like, yeah, I believe in you, and let's get this going. And from that, I helped her with her project. I don't know the specific details, but do remember kind of struggling a bit in the beginning because I wasn't super familiar with it. But she believed in me, and so did Jen. And I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm gung ho and ready to, get to it.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple trends that I hear all three of you hitting on, which make me really happy, that we've accomplished some things for you all as young adults entering the workforce. So the couple things that I heard that I can point to, and say, yes, you learned that, or you got a foundation of that in launch, was, both Corey and Sam, what you were talking about in terms of the projects that you've worked on in your work life, your professional work life. It sounds like you came at them from a customer focused perspective, right? And not everybody who
Right.
works in startups understands the true connection that your customer experience, your customer profile, all of the things about solving the customer's problem, how vital that is to the success of a startup. Um, I also heard you talk about, providing assets that lean towards growth and scalability, which I know are things that you learned at least some foundational principles from all of the expert-led sessions that we have, and being around Luann and I and talking about business all the time. Like I think absorb some of the knowledge that, I think specifically for the two companies you work for Logistomatics and Ibotta, you're providing projects that are helping that business become more efficient, more accountable, more customer focused, right? And all of that efficiency that you both talk about, that's how you scale, is you figure out how to use technology more efficiently. You figure out how to work with people more effectively so that you can scale a business. And then the other thing I heard, that Luke, I just hear, like, it just like washes over me when you were talking, was like, you are required to step it up in this internship. Like, the interns who succeed and who love this internship are the ones who don't need like super hand holding. You come to me for guidance and feedback. It's almost like I provide some bumpers for you, but on some level, you have to figure it out. Like, you have to dig deeper. You're going to get some feedback. You have to try again, right? And that particular skill of being, managed in a more hands-off way than you might in other college experiences, where I think people really kind of baby college students and treat them as though they don't know anything. Whereas we're like, all right, I mean, we hired you, we have high expectations, people are counting on you. And so let's go figure it out together. So I just, I really hear that kind of, like, you appreciate the expectation of digging deeper and being treated like a team member.
Yeah, to your point, Jen. I know you during our internship in the spring gave birth to a beautiful baby daughter, and we're out for a little bit. And me and the three other interns that were working were kind of like, okay, this is the show. We've got to run it, and we're all for it. So we were, managing who gets which project and helping each other out. And it was really refreshing to get to have so much independence and freedom in this internship, and not have that hand holding, like, oh, they don't know too much, so we're gonna spoon feed all of this information to them, and not get that great of an experience out of an internship. This internship was something so different, and so much more beneficial in the long term. So I really appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I just, like, I love that you brought up my maternity leave, because I think that was such an interesting component of your particular experience. Was you have a manager who just like, I'm out. We had our big event, Capital Connects. I made it through that day. And then the next day I was gone for 6 weeks, and I was like, there's no email checking. You're on your own. We've prepped you for this. You have documentation. You have a process, figure it out. And it's really sweet, because I look back, like, you and Patty were some of the first people to hold my baby when I came in, like 3 weeks later, just to say hi and show off the baby. And Corey knows the baby and saw her start walking, because the baby will visit me at work. So Corey was there every day when she'd come to nurse and whatever. And Luke knows that he's seen pictures of all my kids. It's funny. The reason I bring that up is because in interviews, and I feel like Corey and Sam, you specifically asked me this in your interviews, was what is the culture at launch? Like, what am I getting into? Because I want to make sure it's a fit. And I would say, like, pretty laid back professional, right? Like you
Definitely.
have to bring your A game to work. You have to be growth minded. You have to be willing to be self sufficient. You have to be willing to ask for help. But we're still all about people, right? Like we are all about serving our entrepreneurs. We're all about, making sure that there's some balance in terms of what's going on in your life, right? Like I'm on maternity leave. That's real. That's real life. That happens at locations. And so talking about real life, Luke, I would love for you to share with people your particular experience is, I think, one of the toughest and one you'll look back on and be like, all right, that was really interesting time in my life. So you interned for us January through May of 2020. So as we all know, in March of 2020, the world shut down. So Luke had been so Corey and Sam, you had deep relationships with the entrepreneurs because you would see them every week, like when we're all in the classroom
Right.
together. So you could have those after session chats with them, talk about a project, make personal, energy connections and that kind of thing. They could see your work in person. Luke only had that for 2 months and then it went virtual. And so, Luke, tell us a little bit about that for you as an intern. That's got to be kind of scary and strange.
Absolutely. Well, before I get into the pandemic, because I've kind of been holding my tongue over here, but so like when you were talking about, bringing your A game and having that growth mindset, I think it really goes back to really Launch Greensboro is staying true to its entrepreneurial roots. It's not like in a corporation or a big company where you always have someone to go to and they'll help you with the problem or they'll know what to do. It's like, you're kind of trusting us to be able to figure it out. And that's just like in entrepreneurship. Like as an entrepreneur, you're not going to have the answers dangling over your head, whenever you need them. And like, you have to get down and figure it out. So I think that's one thing I really appreciated about the internship and the fact that, Jen is not always available, like you kind of just have to take her when you got her and do what you can with what you have while you're there. So but it's a growing opportunity. But as far as the pandemic and going through that, and from my experience, it was just everyone's trying to figure out the exact same thing at the same time. Like everyone went virtual at the same time. So all these organizations are going through, okay, like how do we maintain continuity of our programs and how do we deliver a quality service and all that. So it was nice to be able to meet those entrepreneurs in like face to face before the pandemic hit, to be able to establish that connection. That was super helpful going into the stage of, okay, let's figure out how we're going to make this work under these circumstances. Going into, I guess, this last spring, we had already been in the pandemic for almost a year at that point. So everyone kind of had the whole Zoom thing figured out and the virtual meetings and stuff. So it was a little bit easier that culture had kind of been established over the previous year and made it easier to kind of establish those connections and those relationships with those entrepreneurs and still be able to deliver, quality projects and deliverables and things like that. But now that we're kind of phasing out of that, now that the vaccines are kind of going around and people are getting vaccinated, it's also nice to be able to transition back into, that previous state of normalcy, slowly but surely.
Well, and Luke, you made me think of something. You've had the experience to work on a couple projects kind of outside of the scope of the cohort as well. So you worked with me specifically on taking our annual pitch event, which is like our big deal Super Bowl event, trying to figure out how to take that online. We typically have a huge audience and a big stage and people are pitching. And so I remember looking to you and be like, we're trying to figure this out. What can you help me do? Because this whole virtual event thing is not a one-person show. An in-person event is also not a one-person show. Sam was there for Capital Connects right there in person. But the other thing, Luke, that you have gotten to spend a little bit of time in is the seed fund. So the First Launch Capital Seed Fund is something that not all of our interns have kind of access to, but through this summer fellows program, you've been able to work with Luann on that and see almost a whole different side of entrepreneurship in terms of that stage and that funding component. So just wanted to call out a couple interesting things.
Number one, like I've super enjoyed working with the VC. Like that's something that's just been right in my wheelhouse. Everything that I love about entrepreneurship is like within the VC and the work that goes along with that. Just looking at startups and small businesses for the potential of investing like at a very high level, and also getting down like you pretty much have to become an expert on the business and on that market and in that industry in a very short period of time. So it really challenges me to use all of the knowledge that I've gained so far and to be able to kind of consolidate all that information and basically create a deliverable so that the investors will have something to say. Like they can look at like a 6-page document and say, okay, this is pretty much in a nutshell, everything that I need to know to make an informed decision about investment. So it's been super interesting. Who knows? I might even go to VC. That's pretty sweet. I love working over there.
That's awesome. All right. Well, to wrap up, I wanted to let our listening audience know that we are in the midst of recruiting for our fall internship program. If you aren't convinced already, go ahead and apply and have an interview with me and see what you think you might bring to the table and what we might be able to offer you in terms of professional development. But again, they're paid internships. They will run August through December. You do incredible projects for incredible people. You learn a lot along the way. You can add a lot to your portfolio. So in the show notes, we will have how you can apply to that internship. But so wrap us up, Corey, then Sam, then Luke. What is some parting advice you have for rising seniors who are looking to make final decisions about their internships?
Just so we're clear, are we saying for seniors that are planning on applying to launch or seniors that are entering the workforce in general?
Let's say anything. I mean, I feel like we've plugged our stuff a lot. And like I said, if you're not convinced, then we might not be the right place for you. But, internships are such an important part of the college experience in general. So you have all had an internship, but tell people how to take advantage of the best way to take advantage of any internship in any industry.
My advice is use LinkedIn and Glassdoor for sure. It's always helpful if you kind of like have a feel for what companies specifically you might want to work for, or even the kind of work you want to do. Or even if you're like me and you're towards the end of college and you're like just trying to get your feet wet and figure different things out, internships that's what they're for. So no matter what the internship is that you're applying for, or that you're, any internship you're trying to get, I would just say keep your options open, make sure your resume is kept up to date, but definitely the networking side of things, such as using LinkedIn and researching the companies on Glassdoor, looking at interview questions like work-life balance, things like that. All of that information is on Glassdoor. And yeah, just keep your options open, keep an open mind, and stay confident and know your worth for sure. Know what you're expected to do, but also don't be afraid to go the extra mile, and don't be shy to really show yourself on the interviews, and really just be yourself and open up to the company, because that's who they're looking to hire, and that's most likely what's going to give you the job.
Man, I hate following up on Corey. You just have fabulous responses. But yeah, be confident and reach out to people. If you like a company and you're really interested in, what they do, reach out to some people, look on their LinkedIn, see if there's anyone that you may have a connection with. And just reach out, be really bold, because that is, what leaves really good impressions on people. I've had people reach out to me that are 3-4 connections, away from me, and are like, hey, I'm looking at your company and would love to, ask you some questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. That's something that's really important, and not a lot of people do, because it's a lot of effort, but put yourself out there and be different. That's what people really like. And once you do get your internship, ask people questions and ask for coffee chats and get to know everyone in your department, get to know other people in different departments or other teams. That also shows how much you enjoy being there and how much you're willing to just, learn. And keep those connections. You never know, especially if you found the industry that you want to be in. You never know who may have a connection that can get you another job in the future, 5-10 years down the road. So yeah, create those connections, get on LinkedIn, be bold, and don't be afraid to, the worst they can say is no, and that doesn't hurt. So yeah, that's some advice for me.
So my advice would be to have an objective going in, like know what your objective is going in. That way, no matter what, field you're looking at or what kind of internship you're looking at, even if you don't get the internship that you necessarily is at the top of your list, if you have the objective going in, you know what you want to learn, you know what you want to gain from it. You can really optimize that opportunity to be able to take everything that you want from it, right? It helps you to stay engaged. So, even if it's like, you're not working on the project you would super like to be on, right? There's still things that you can learn from doing that project. And I would just stay open-minded and just have a growth mindset. And you will benefit from your internship no matter what it is. And just like everyone else is saying, make connections, like network while you're in the internship, because you might not ever see those people again. It's great to establish connections while you have the opportunity and reach out to them later.
And just to speak on connecting once again, also like don't be afraid to just kind of like be friendly with anyone that you come across in any internship. But to speak to Launch Greensboro specifically, like the entrepreneurs, it's not like you're working for a boss, like you're meeting with them one-on-one, but it's kind of just like this conversation we're having here. Like it's not, there's no strings attached. They're not expecting you to become like their next CEO, but what you're doing is very helpful to them. So, and a lot of their projects are even really fun. So like shout out to Paula at Doggos. I did a project for her where I pretty much spent 8 hours a day being paid by Launch Greensboro to build. I did some like technical stuff in the back end, but basically scan Instagram for people's Instagrams of their dogs. And I spent like 2 or 3 days getting paid to do that. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in at the end there as well.
I love that. Yeah, like the project can be hard or confusing, but also super duper fun, like getting to look at dogs and figuring out how to help, someone figure out their brand or figure out, again, I feel like what you did for Paula too was their like membership check-in intake process. I remember at least a few years ago that you were working on that, right? So like, guys, the skills that you bring to these entrepreneurs that they would have to go out and pay someone else to do. But it's like I said, it's that win-win-win. It's a win for you to be able to put that in your portfolio and look at dog photos. It's a win for you to meet lots of people and think of new career choices, maybe in VC. It's a win for you to figure out like how to expand that network and make sure it works for you in 10 years. And then it's win to entrepreneurs and win for our community. We love Greensboro. And so we're really happy to be here and support. So I just want to thank all three of you for taking the time. Corey, Luke, Sam, you guys are awesome. It was way fun to catch up. For our listeners, make sure that you hit us up for that fall internship. Again, we run them fall and spring. It's a quick application and then an interview process. And so if you are a rising senior and want an opportunity, or if you know someone who is, send them our way. And then, of course, as always, follow us on social. We are Launch Greensboro on Instagram and LinkedIn. We are at Launch GSO on Twitter, and on Facebook, we're at Greensboro Entrepreneur. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
This podcast is brought to you by Truliant Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Make sure to subscribe so you'll get new episodes delivered to your device each week. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.